Welcome to day 3 of Racers Trackside Report from the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. We have our man, our ace reporter, 51 years in at IMS, Robin Miller. Fast Friday. That's a fast mask as well from All American Racers. Let's talk about what we did see today, my man. We did see speed. Interesting dynamic in two ways. Marco Andretti put up the fastest speed we've seen on a Fast Friday since 1996 at more than 233 miles an hour. We also saw the fastest no-toe speeds coming from the Andretti drivers, Ryan Hunter-Reay being one of them. Most importantly, Robin, share some insights about Honda on the no-toe list, 1st through 9th. What do we go into this weekend? Qualifying for the Fast 9.
Well, I was going to ask you because I think you can remember better than most. It was just a few years ago that Honda just kicked butt in practice, and qualifying, it was a completely different story. Remember?
Yeah.
And so I'm not saying that it's going to happen again, but like Will Power was 12th on the overall list, and I think he was the fastest, maybe one of the two fastest legitimate non-toe Chevys at like 20th or something. But Andretti's got, the no-toe guys were like Hunter-Reay, Dixon, Rossi, Marco. They were the four fastest. 9 out of the top 10 were Hondas on the speed chart. Then they did this new stat, which you probably saw, that's got the 4-lap. They did the 4-lap averages, and Ryan Hunter-Reay, Marcus Ericsson, Graham Rahal, and Dixon were all over 231. So it just looks like Honda's got this thing covered. And then they just had the qualifying draw, and Graham Rahal's 1 and Sato's 2. And if it's anything like tomorrow, if tomorrow's anything like today, it was really nice from 11 to 12, and then it got so stinking hot and humid that if Graham said it even before the draw, he said, I think if you're not in the first hour, it's gonna be really tough to make the Fast 9. You almost got to be in the first 9. But what do you think? Do you think Chevrolet always comes up with something qualifying? I mean, are they holding back, or because all the Chevrolet guys, passionate, everybody saying, "Oh, my car works great in traffic. It's just not very good by itself."
I don't know if they have enough to overcome almost a top 10 filled with Hondas in qualifying, Robin. We have seen in the past Chevy hold back a tiny bit, really turn up the wick when we get into Fast Friday, or maybe even wait to go all the way once we get into qualifying weekend. I don't know, with the limited running that we've had this month, the cut down with not as many practice days, if that would be a strategy they truly employ. I had one Honda-based team owner texting me late today, asking the same question. Hey, those Chevy guys, they're known for pulling stuff out of the bag. What do you see? What do you hear? Do you think I should be prepared for misery tomorrow? And I said, I don't think so. Do I expect some of the Chevys, could be Ed Carpenter's team, Team Penske, to move farther up than they were today in the no-toe report? Absolutely. It'd be a shock to not have one or more of the Penske or Carpenter cars in the Fast 9. But do I think Honda's looking pretty darn good at this brand new highest boost setting? That's probably the big area to consider, Robin. There were talks that Chevy might have just been on the advantageous side with their tuning in the previous medium boost setting that we used through 2019. There was a feeling that those Chevys were really singing when it came time in qualifying with that power. Maybe with this brand new high boost setting, maybe the folks at Honda Performance Development, maybe they've gained the upper hand. So I think what we saw today was somewhat real. I don't know if Chevy would actually truly wait and spring a big surprise tomorrow, because I don't think there's enough time. So the talk you heard and I heard from some of the Penske drivers about, hey, maybe Fast 9, Fast 10 tomorrow, who knows, but we're working on race setup, makes me think they've realized that's the thing to focus on, because maybe the pole could be a little bit too far out of reach.
Yeah. Like Connor Daly was second fastest overall day at 232 with it for Ed Gartner's team, but he was like 27th on the no-toe list. And when they interviewed him on NBCSN and even on the PA system a little while ago, he wasn't brimming with confidence. He was like, "Yeah, we had a good lap and it was a pretty good day, but we got a lot of things. We're not there we're not where we want to be yet. It's not like he was just overly. Whereas when you talk to somebody like Graham said, look, I ran 4 laps. He goes, I ran 231, 230, 229, 2. He goes, I dropped off about 2.5 miles an hour in 4 laps. And he said, if you can do that tomorrow and you can start out at 230 or 231, you got a hell of a shot to be in the top 9, because that's obviously always the key here is keeping lap 3 and 4 underneath you. But uh, it's just it's interesting just because we've seen this and throughout the years that one group just looks like they've got everybody covered, and they get to qualify, and something maybe it doesn't happen a lot, but it's happened a couple times, and you just kind of scratch your head and think, okay, they fooled us again. But it always doesn't always seem like sometimes if we're at a race and Honda's just 1 through 10, and then in qualifying, Chevrolet always, Team Penske, boom, 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 they're right there.
You can never count out, ever, never, ever, can you count out Team Chevy, Ilmore Engineering, and their teams. In particular, as you mentioned, Penske, also ECR. You can never count them out. That's why, which again, I love this, Robin, we've got a fairly prominent Honda team owner texting and asking, should I believe in this? Am I okay? Am I about to be really let down tomorrow? That's how much respect Chevy has. So while, again, they haven't demonstrated Fast 9 pace today, these are 2 days of qualifying. That's great. Then we get into the race where it really matters. And if we look at the, call it race running done on Wednesday and Thursday, very little of that done today. Hondas look quick as well. It's not as if the Chevy teams were complaining like they didn't have the performance to run up front. So maybe that's the big thing to think about and to pivot to here in the conversation, Robin. Today was about qualifying speed. Tomorrow's all about qualifying. It's the only thing that's going on. Sunday, we're going to get, 2.5 hours of practice after the Fast 9 is set. That's really the last shot for teams to get ready for race day. Carb day gets a little bit busy, right? A lot of pit stop practice, a lot of other things. It's rarely a clean day to continue working on the car. I don't know if all the teams are feeling settled as we have to, look ahead a little bit past this weekend. I don't know if everyone's fully settled about what they're going to have on race day. That's a variable I love.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about Marco Andretti. He's been in the top 3 all 3 days. He was always one of the guys to beat here for 5 or 6 years, and then in the last 2 or 3 or 4 years, he's just dropped off. He's not been a contender. So I don't know. I'm thinking it'd be great for the series if he stepped up and won this race, and certainly competitive. It's a good way. I was going to say it'd be good for the fans. That would have been a sad faux pas on my part, but it'd be good for the media because Andretti makes good headlines in papers that don't really care about racing. So it'll be interesting. I mean, Andretti, whatever it was, Marshall, whoever should get credit, whether it was their shock program, damper, whatever it was a few years ago when they were lost, and then suddenly they turned this thing around and it all kind of started here. They had 7 cars, and they've got it figured out with just about all of them.
Let's talk about a couple folks, Robin. We expect to perform well in qualifying this weekend, but also they're given some good feelings about race pace. That's Ryan Hunter-Reay, who, as you mentioned, fastest overall in the no-toe speeds. Scott Dixon, second on the no-toe speeds, was told that yesterday Dixie set the fastest lap overall. Did that in full race trim, full downforce, when some of the nearly as fast times had been set early Thursday in semi-qualifying trims, if not outright qualifying trims. So Dixon going fastest despite being fully downforced up. Quick again today, trimming out. You want to be that versatile player right there. Alex Palou jumped up, granted. It's a little bit of a help of a toe towards the end of the day. He was 14th. But we've got some interesting, predictions, prognostications of some of those who might be happy come race day, qualifying as well. Got some rookies who are making themselves known. Are there any, Robin, that stand out, be it driver or team so far, going into qualifying weekend, where you're saying, where are you? We know you're here, but we haven't seen or felt you.
Probably Ed Carpenter, just because he's won the pole 3 times, and he's somebody that you always think is going to be a contender for the pole. And I just heard him say, "Boy, I hope tomorrow's better than today was." I mean, he's a little bit seemed a little bit down, like maybe something's escaped him because there's another team that figured this place out in the last decade as well as anybody, and he's won 3 poles. So I'd say him being where he's at now. Obviously, Connor was second fast today, but we don't know. It's interesting though. In the old days at the Star, you couldn't wait to write who was the fastest, and then I'm not sure when the no toe thing all started, but then you start. That's obviously the story is who's out there, but it's so hard to get a no toe lap. And I think the one thing, it was either Townsend or Paul Tracy on NBC today said, "Isn't it hard to imagine that Scott Dixon's only won this race one time, and it was back in 2008?" That's probably the most amazing stat of all.
Robin Miller, you are Racers' official degenerate gambler, self-described. You're the one who we ask who's going to be on pole, who's going to win the race. Whenever I get asked, the opposite happens. People actually pay me to not predict them because my predictions are so terrible. Pole weekend, Fast 9. Who do you think is going to be on pole for the 104th Indianapolis 500? We'll wait for your race day winning predictions, but who do you think gets the pole? And if it's a Honda driver, who do you think the fastest Chevy driver might be if they're not on pole?
I think based on the draw, which we just heard, I think Dixon's going to win the pole, and I think Sato and Hunter Ray are going to be the front row. I think that's going to be the front row. The fastest Chevy is going to be Spencer Pigot. How's that?
Yeah. Well,
Just
he's
kidding.
in a Honda, so he'd have to make a switch overnight. But
No, I'm kidding. I think the fastest Chevy will still be Will Power. I really do. But I'm not sure he'll be in the top in the Fast 9. I don't know if could they be shut out? Has anybody ever been shut out of the Fast 9?
you're asking a guy whose memory is a little bit fuzzy by this hour of the day. Glad to hear and see that you're feeling better, Mr. Miller. We're going to look forward to doing this again tomorrow and get to talk about who sits in that Fast 9, who transfers over to Sunday to go for the actual pole. That is Robin Miller. I am Marshall Pruitt. This is Racers Trackside Report from the Indianapolis 500. We'll speak to you tomorrow.